Welcome back to another OnX Offroad Build Challenge. Here is the bumper. And I thank you for anybody that went on to my BleepinJeep Instagram or Facebook and checked that out. Now it's time to go ahead and put in a cage because we got to get this thing done and we're running out of time. So by UA rules, if you have a hard top, you only have to have a roll bar, but you do want it to protect you. You do want to make sure that's going to keep you safe. If in event of a roll, you don't just want a cheesy little roll bar, you're going to want a full protective bar. Otherwise, if you have a removable top, then you have to have a full cage. I think what I'm going to do though is try to build a full cage. Let's see how hard it is to pull this dash out, and if I can pull the dash out, then I can throw an A-pillar in here, and then we'll actually have a nice full roll cage inside this rig. Also, after straightening out that toolbox, I sold it for 200 bucks, and I was able to buy these for a couple $100, they were like 200 bucks a piece for each side, but these are side toolboxes, which I like better because now tire sits inside all the way up towards the cab, which is going to give me just that much more space to put things. Plus now I got double the tool storage on each side of the box. And those of you that are wondering, I did go ahead and tear this winch apart, just made sure everything looked good, and added some lithium grease into the gear side just to make sure that it's smooth. It actually free spools really smooth now, so I feel everything's pretty good. Plus I had all that wire when I ran that wire back to the battery, that I could also attach that wire, that hot lead, inside this part here, and I have it routed down to there. Now when it comes to tubing, I have built, I can't tell you how many cages and bumpers with an affordable bender. This is an upgraded version. This one is with a Harbor Freight air over hydraulic jack. So now all I got to do is that, and it's going to bend the tubing for me. The reason I like these benders is, number one, they are extremely affordable. Every part here, minus the jack itself, is made in the USA. I don't know if there's any company out there that makes a bender with a jack or a ram on it that's made in the USA. I'm not even sure if that's possible. And for those of you wondering what you have to do to make your affordable bender fit this air over hydraulic jack, which I think Harbor Freight only makes one 12,000 pound bottle jack that's air over hydraulic. But the outside diameter of this is 6 1/8 inches, and that's to clear the jack. It did have a handle here to hold on to it, and I cut that off and just welded it onto here so that I can lock the jack in place or free it up. I took the cap here for the springs and just cut it in half and welded it on each side. And because the jack is bigger than your regular pumping bottle jack, this extension from the base here to the center of the hole is 1 5/8. And where the jack sits, you have to move this part as well. It sits here on the normal one, so you have to get a piece of 1 3/4 and move it over. You have to move it to about 2 3/4 inches from the edge of here to center it up there. If any of you already own an affordable bender and want to modify it, that's how you can do it. It's really just time and welding more than just parts, minus getting the jack. You do have to buy that. Do I got a mess? All this stuff's out of here. I got the dash out. I pulled the fuse panel out. The problem is where everything falls, my computer. So this right here is what holds the dash in. I may be able to sneak in behind it, but I'm gonna have to for sure move my computer, because the computer's here and it actually sits right here. So if I were to try to feed a tube through here, it's gonna get really tight. Plus I found that this is broke. I don't know how that got broke, but it's broke. So I may patch that up with some 100-mile-an-hour tape. Somebody must have been in there at one time to do that heater core is my guess. I don't know, but it's kind of a bummer that it's busted right there. So I have a problem here. Do I want to try to fish a tube through all that and see if I can actually get something in there? Or do I want to just weld plates to the side of this? Decisions, but I don't have much time. If I'd have known it was this tight in there, I think I would have just done the B pillars and then put them on a removable clamp to come over for the A pillar to the floor. That way I could remove the A pillar if I ever need to pull the dash. Well, I think it's time for some arts and crafts. Spark, create, imagine. Ages 3 and plus. Yay! So I made my pieces. I am going to stencil them out here, and then this will actually work on both sides. Pretty close. I'll have to make it, modify it just a little bit for the driver's side, but pretty close for both sides. So I can make these pieces, and then we can go from there. So I got my plates welded in. I also bolted them into the stock locations of where they bolt up. And now I have a point up here to weld an A-pillar tube on. But one thing I'm going to do before I put this dash back together, I'm going to have to notch the dash out, is clean up all of this. If you can't see this, so that's all the old stuff to basically keep it from corroding. The problem is it just gets nasty and disgusting, and you still actually lose contact. So I'm going to clean it all up, and then I'll put some new contact, whatever it's called, whatever the contact stuff is. I know I got some. I'll put some of that on there after I clean all these up, and then I will put the fuse panel back together. So I got to tell you guys, it is like 3 or 4 in the afternoon at this point. And it took me that long to pull this dash out, make these pieces, put them in, and then put the dash back in, bolt all this stuff back up. So it's been kind of a chore getting everything back together. I also wanted to clean things up, especially my fuse panel, but it is all together. And you can see how nice and tight these caps are for me to weld these tubes to come up here for this A-pillar. So now we can actually work on bending some tubing. I've shown this tool before. This is just called a true angle, but it helps me find the degree I want for a cage. So now I have the angle I want, and I just need to find my tape measure wherever I put that. There it is. Now I can go ahead and take a measurement from here to the bend, which is 2 feet at the center of the bend. I got my 2 foot sticking out from the edge of the bender to here. And what I'm using is heat rolled electric welded, which I just call A-true, which is seamed tubing. And it has a seam going through it where they've rolled it together and then welded it together. Now the next step up from that is DOM, and that's what I like to use for an exterior cage. On my buggies, on the exterior sides of the cage, I use DOM tubing. Any interior pieces I may use A-true just to save some money, but this has a seam, which you can see right there, maybe. I don't know if you can see that or not. The important thing when you're bending A-true is to make sure that you keep that seam inside the bend. You don't want it on the outside of the bend. I try to put it right in the middle, actually, on the inside of the bend. Now, if you're up a little bit or down a little bit, you're okay, but I don't want it on the outside, because if, for some reason, if it were ever to get weird, that tube could split, and you definitely don't want it to try to split on the outside of the tubing. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but that's the seam right there. That's the electric weld right there. So I got that turned up, and that's what I want to have turned up when I go ahead and start bending. Now, when I built the cage on the Samurai, you guys remember I pump jacked every single thing, and I had the pump jacks actually on this side on a factory one. So I had it out here. With this new air over hydraulic pneumatic one, it's just going to do it for me. Like butter. Now there's a downside to doing this. Your compressor kicks on and then you probably can't even hear me talking. It may be hard to tell, but right here you can see we're exactly lined up with this tubing. The thing about it when you bend tubing is you're going to have what's called kickback. So I'm going to give it just a little bit extra and see if it'll, when I release it, if it'll fall back to this point. So now that we got an idea what it is, I'm going to mark my die here. And now I can bend the next one, and all I gotta do is stop at that point where the die is. Bing! I went ahead and tacked it in. We're pretty good here. We got everything's trued up. I match in line here and here, and I'm the same width apart across here. I really like where that's sitting. So I think I can go ahead and try the other side. It's going to sag a little bit when I let go of it because I got a couple really good tacks in it, but I think that's good for what I want. All right, so you got to remember that this is just sagging down a little bit. It's tacked in well, but it'll actually push up against the body and be tighter up there, just like this side will be, like that. But I'm leaving this ends open because in case I ever want to tie into it exteriorly later down the road, it's going to be easy to just run in through that tube and go straight out the cab. Now I need to make my B-pillar here and tie it down into the base of this cage. So what I have here is a double layered body mount. The body mount is actually right here, but I have these two nice bolt holes here and here on each side, and I can put a nice 1/4 inch plate here that's going to be big and stout and keep me safe with that. That's what I got to do next, is go ahead and make these plates. 1/4 inch plate of disaster. I don't think that tube will go through there. So I got two ways of doing this. I could either come straight up off my plate, which is honestly probably stronger because I'm keeping that tube directly vertical, which is going to support this thing a lot better. Anytime you add a bend, you've added a weak point. But I think I'm going to kick it like this, just so that I have a little more room here, and I'll still do a spreader bar in the back supporting it. So now that I got these tubes the same length, if I measure this point at the same length and bend it at the same place, then when I get this one actually notched and everything fit, if everything's symmetrical, I can just match this one to this one, and I don't have to sit there and play back and forth, and that makes it a lot quicker and easier when you're doing left and right tubes. Okay, so I set the tube on the chassis and just kind of eyeballed it and got my marks to where I want to notch this thing. Now, for notching 1.5 inch tubing, you're going to want an 1.5 inch hole saw. If you're a notching 1 3/4 inch, you probably want 1 3/4 inch hole saw, and so on and so forth. Now, when I was younger and I wasn't very good at notching, I actually used to use an 1 5/8 inch for my 1.5 inch tubing, and that gave me just a little bit of play to twist it. Now I really want it perfect, because the tighter the coping is to the tubing, the easier it is to weld. Now with a bigger radius bend, I could get this thing to sit vertical to that and be straight 90 degrees. With it such a small bend, I really just got to eyeball it and try to get it as straight as possible where this is square to the notch. This is also an affordable bender notcher. I know that there are better notchers out there. There's some guys that make some really cool notchers. This one works really good for me. I used to use the Harbor Freight one, which works fine, but the problem with it is in here it has brass bushings, and those just wear out. Consistently they're wearing out. Where this one from Affordable Bender actually has needle bearings in it. So this thing is nice and smooth, and it's strong, and I don't really have to worry about the shank wearing out and then you getting a wobbly notch. And that's why I like using the battery drill. Alrighty. Set that there. Set this here. Straighten that out. Oh yeah. Look at that. No more saggy tubes. One of the things I may not have mentioned, I don't remember, is why I put all this tape up here is so that I don't ruin the glass. If you're welding, you're going to ruin all your glass if you don't have it taped off. So I just had that there to tack it. But before I burn this whole cage in, I'm going to be taping up and protecting all of my glass all the way around. You guys should have told me I was dirty. I do want to show you this because I think this is kind of cool. So the way I set this tube up, you can see that it just follows the line of the window. Which I kind of like. Also, if you look in the back, which is hard to see because there's a box there, all the tubes are in the same spot. With all the tubes in the same spot, ooh, the bad lighting, okay. With all the tubes in the same spot, and I haven't even put in spreaders, I feel really good about what's going on right now. So next thing I gotta do here now is measure my spreaders and get those going across. Yeah, that's what we gotta do, measure spreaders. So I know that my tubes are straight with each other because I matched them straight with each other on everything all the way back. So I know that my notches going across are going to be straight with each other on both sides. And the way to do that is to get this lined up where you want your notch. It's going to be about right there. And then you're going to take a piece of tubing and put it in the notch you already have. Once it's straight with the notcher, so you got to use your micrometer here. Now you can put a level on here and then a level up on front and know exactly, but I feel like my micrometer is good today. So now that I have that exactly where I want it, I can go ahead and notch this, and now I got two perfectly straight notches on each side of my tubing. Got it. I have my spreader bar that I want to put in, so I need to notch it that way equally on both sides. But then I have the tubes coming up for the B pillars. So I needed to turn this straight up at 90 degrees so that I could drill out the bottom ends here for the lower tube. So now I have it notched for the main tube up top, and then I just notched out the base for the B pillars. I think I'm just going to try to get this front spreader in real quick, tack it, and then I'm calling it a night. Tomorrow morning I'm not going to be able to take off on this because I got to take off down to Rapid City to pick up Matt, because Matt's coming out. So he's going to help me knock out. We're in the final days here. So he's gonna we're gonna spend about 4 or 5 days trying to finish this thing up, and then we're hitting the road. Okay, it's morning and I gotta go pick up Matt. But let me show you what I knocked out today. The basic part of the cage is all in. I have everything kind of trued up. That's what I'm using to true this thing up to keep it straight. But it is ready for me to weld in, and then I'm gonna add supports and gussets and spreaders and all kinds of stuff. Also, I am starting to collect tools, which aren't going against the budget. There's things to carry on the truck. This is one of them. Now, I had my son help me put this together. This is a Pittsburgh 1.5 ton jack that we've modified using 911 Motorsports off-road kit. So as you can see, it's got extensions, it's got off-road tires. It even has a plate that you put on here to keep it. If it sinks into the sand, that plate will stop it. So you can extend this up like this high, which is pretty insane. And it's lightweight. Let me put this into comparison for you, so you can see the difference between my 3-ton Harbor Freight jack and the Pittsburgh jack with the 911 Motorsports off-road kit. That's what I'm going to carry on the truck, because I don't need a 3-ton jack to carry on the truck. I need something small and nimble. I do love this big jack for getting out in the yard, working outside, doing everything else. But the small one I can button up and tuck up in there, which I like. But if you only have the big off-road jack, they also make a tie-down kit for the big jack, so you can actually get that for it if you have the space and the room to put it in there. That's just one of the tricks that I'm going to try to bring with me, because Ian Johnson told us in an email that there's going to be challenges throughout this trip. I am hoping that one of those is a tire change, where we can swap out a tire real quick. And with that and an impact in hand, I think I can knock it out pretty fast. So I left with plenty of time, but I'm about 10 minutes late to picking Matt up from the airport here. I got stuck behind the Corvette convention going through the Black Hills. I don't get it. When the Viper convention's here, they all drive the speed limit. When the Mustang convention's here, they all go about 20 over, or wreck into crowds, or do whatever Mustangs do. But when the Corvettes are here, they all drive about 20 under the speed limit. And when I have an hour and a half drive, 20 under the speed limit adds up real quick. So either way, maybe you guys know, why do Corvettes drive slow? Like they're a fast car. I don't get it. That's not Matt. That's not Matt. That's not Matt. That's not Matt. There he is. I got him.
I had my first Blaze pizza. What's your favorite pizza?
I like to build my own.
Mine's always Canadian bacon and pineapple, so Hawaiian pizza, but with jalapenos.
He had to think about that for a minute, because he was about to say it American style, jalapeno.
So I was just here, what, 3 weeks ago? You put a lot of work into that thing in a short amount of time. You've been working your butt off.
Yeah, I've been busy.
I think it's good. I want to see it. Look how tall it is. That's crazy. It's huge. Bob's bed. Looks good. Look at that. Stout factory-ish bumper. People said they didn't know about that in the last video, but I like it. I like that bumper. Exhaust.
Traction bar, rear shocks, diff cover.
You did a lot since I was here last. Looks like it's ready to roll. You ready to rock?
No, not yet. Not yet. Still got cage work to do. Finishing up in here.
Oh, I guess we should probably put a seat in there.
Unless you want to sit on a bucket. So now I got the cage squared up, I'm going to go ahead and burn all these in before I put in all my extra little kickers and gussets and everything else. And that way it stays nice and true for any of my other stuff. As I move up to weld each piece, I'm going to take this fiberglass fire blanket and just shove it in out of the way so that I can finish welding up each piece as I go. And hopefully that'll protect it from ruining my glass. Changed my mind on the fire blanket and decided to put up paper and just tape it up because I couldn't get the fire blanket out of my way to get up into these high little angle spots to get as much of that welded up as possible. I also added a spreader here that we put a nice little bend in. Matt's here supervising me. And now I've just put the seatbelt bar and basically B-pillar spreader in here as well. So it measures 13¼ inches on this side, 13¼ inches on this side. We have 0.7 on the high side to the right, 0.7 on the high side to the right. So we're looking really, really true on all this. I feel really good about it. What do you think so far?
Well, I feel good about it if you feel good about it.
So I went ahead and added a gusset here to support this thing going this way, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put a gusset this way as well to give this thing a nice footprint for this tube. And now we got a little more beefaroni.
Look at that. That's beautiful. And it matches the wheels. You guys probably know that we like to use power tanks in our vehicles. I put a lot of these in a lot of my vehicles, but one of the things that it took me a while to realize is that you want to install this upright if possible, because if you do that, you don't ever have to take it out. If you have the hose that's 15 feet, you can reach every corner of your Jeep or truck without ever having to dismount it, which is really nice on occasions when you don't want to get it out. So I'll just work on these latches here until they're tight, and then there'll be a pin that goes here to keep that locked into place so it can't wiggle loose. That sucker's not going anywhere.
Perfect.
Once you say it's not going anywhere, that means it's never going anywhere. You got to say it though, otherwise it'll go somewhere. Starting to look pretty good back here. We've got the toolboxes there. This is going to go right behind that toolbox on the driver's side, and then on the passenger side, Colt has this 911 Motorsports adapted Harbor Freight jack that we're going to mount vertically right here. It'll offset the power tank on this side. I think Colt's starting fires in there. Let's see what he's doing. Oh, you got a real one there.
Yeah, I need some help, maybe. Some water.
Oh,
Got it.
maybe newspaper's not that great.
It's not the newspaper that was catching fire, it's the blue tape. The blue tape wasn't, like, I got this different blue tape. So this blue tape, Scotch blue, is better than clean release duct painter's tape. This is like paper, and this doesn't catch fire.
Might need some fire watch.
What, you gonna watch me burn? We have tubing. We got a spreader up here. We got spreaders here, there. I got a triangulated support there. We got triangulation down there at the bases. And I even gave Matt a grab handle so you can get in and out of this thing.
Why do you only have triangulation on your side?
Because I'm the only side that matters. Now the one thing I do want to add is a plate here, because I got a power inverter. So I want to be able to mount that there so we can plug stuff in, charge stuff, whatever we need to do while we're on the road. It's hot. Don't throw it on me.
Alright guys, this is how this works. You got your jack handles back there. There's this little bracket up top here that pinches together. This is the base. So when you put your jack away, put it right there, put it there. Try not to burn yourself on the handle. Ooh, that's spicy. Tighten that down, and she's good to rock and roll. You hit a tree, it'll just roll right off.
Yeah.
Backside here.
There you go. Matt and I have been busting our butts We're gonna give it a test drive.
We're gonna be the talk of the town.
We are. Hopefully we don't run out of gas getting to town.
There's so many cool things that we did in the last couple of days that weren't even necessary. It was just to make this thing awesome, and it's basically completely finished. It even has, look at this. It even has floor mats and a rubber floor.
Yeah.
It even has rear floor mats.
Well,
Seat belts.
we were thinking ahead, knowing that we got to go to Moab in the hottest time of the year. So I got this kill mat stuff for 30 bucks off of eBay.
Got too excited and took off too fast and forgot a couple things.
Yeah, I was gonna put 5-gallon gas can in there and I forgot. Too late now. We're at the halfway point.
We forgot gas. We forgot fire extinguisher. I think that's all. Hopefully. Crisis averted.
Made it. Fans staying on too. I'm loving it. So everybody else has a forklift. I don't. So Darren was nice enough here at S&B Auto to let us use his forklift, and we're gonna flex test this thing right now. That's every bit of probably 3 feet easy. I'm 6'5". So we got the flex. Whoever said leaf springs don't flex. So we're good well over a 3-foot tall rock. That is a boulder. Before we even begin to think of pulling a tire, and we still got lockers. So everything's going good so far. And right behind me is my son driving his Jeep Liberty. If you ever saw that video. So at least now if we run into issues, I'll make him give us a ride back to the house. Alright guys, the next time you see this, we are going to be in Moab wheeling it. So, we put in a lot of work. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. Are you ready to do this?
My blood sugar's low. I need to eat something.
Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Check these videos out. Vote. Vote for us.
We need your votes. We want to do the ultimate adventure. What kind of lift this thing got? It's got a Hemi.